Hello friends, Clage back with another video after a long absence. Been working on some other projects, but we have patch notes for the upcoming patch. It's going to be released for Strive this Friday, October 15th, and it's a large one. There is a lot to go over here. What I'm going to do is break down the universal system changes, because they're going to be important when discussing Anji's direct changes, and then I'll talk about Anji's changes, and then much like last time, once I have a better feel, or once the patch is out and I've had a chance to test some things, I'll do a follow-up video showing what's changed, how we can apply it, all that good stuff. But this is going to be the initial reaction and kind of talking about what these changes mean for Anji, both in theory and what we can probably easily discern from these changes. There's a lot, so I'm going to kind of rifle through these as fast as I can. So let's start with the universal changes. They said from the get-go this patch was going to be big system changes. They wanted to address how projectiles work, address how air moves work, both as pokes, as combos, and how you can adjust your options in the air. And then they also are addressing some stuff with blocking that is really, really important. So let's just start going through this. All right, first big change, input buffer, increased time window for input buffering. What this means is now there's a larger window to do things like reversal, a larger window to do things like Gatling, all sorts of stuff. It just, in general, it means your commands are going to be easier to do. You will have more of a window to do a thing and have it register. So that means now when we try to wake up Kacho Fugets to catch someone doing a meaty on us, that's actually going to be easier to hit. It means we'll have a larger window with which to do that. So this is just a universal ease of life buff for everyone in the game. This should make a lot of things a lot more simpler. It should make basic pressure and Gatlings a lot more simpler. So that's just a good thing. It's just a quality of life thing. It's an unnecessary execution hurdle that they initially put in the game. Reversals don't need to be as hard as they are. General input doesn't need to be as hard as it is. So this is good. Big fan of that. Throws. We've increased the window time for throw clashes. What that means is now there's a larger window to tech a throw. So if you go up and you've probably seen it very rarely because it doesn't happen very often, but if you go up and try to throw and you both throw at the same time within a couple frames, I can't remember the exact throw tech window, I believe it was 2, you just, boom, everybody goes back. Now that window is larger. What it means is that instead, you don't have to be psychic and predict a throw to tech it. There'll probably be a fairly okay window. No idea how big they made it. Like I said, I think it's 2 frames now. My guess is it's probably going to be at least 4 to 5, maybe a little bigger. We'll see. We'll have to test that. That's going to be interesting to see. Other notes on that. Throw clash won't work if you press any button other than D. What this means is they are removing any kind of option select where you could try to do stuff like do slash, like slash close S into throw kind of things. That's really important. So that means if you are trying to do an option select to tech a throw and the person throws you, you just lose. So that's good. I'm a big fan of not having major throw OSs in a game. So I think that's perfectly fine. Roaming cancels can be performed on a successful throw even during the animation. What that means, like right now, let's take throw teching back off. Right now, we have to wait for the throw to actually hit to do stuff. Now we'll be able to do it much earlier. So you have to wait till the counter goes to 2 and we get both our hits out. It just means we'll be able to do this way earlier. Not sure what that means for Anji specifically. You don't really want to roam and cancel his throw unless you're trying to do a combo that kills, because throws prorate really bad. So this probably isn't that big of a deal for us personally, but it's still, another option to have. Air throws and air throws no longer increase wall break value. Basically, when you air throw someone near the corner, it's not going to do wall damage. So that's a nice change. Be useful for us. And one more thing on throws. Alter the damage distribution and red Roman cancel activation conditions for some throw moves. What this is probably referring to is like the Nagoriyuki damage bug on throw. Axel can do that as well. They're probably removing that and making sure that red Roman cancel prorates properly on throws. So pretty basic, has no impact on Anji. Counters. So the big thing with counters is they're increasing the length of slowdown that's caused when when counter hits land during slowdown. So what that means is if you like counter hit someone during Roman cancel slowdown and stuff like that, they're basically increasing the slowdown to make it easier to confirm. And they're apparently adjusting the visual counter hit effect. So I don't know if they're going to make the font size smaller, if they're putting new effects in. Hard to say, but it doesn't really change the properties. So no big deal there. Let's see. Roman cancel. We're removing the slowdown adjustment caused by red and purple Roman cancels. What I think that means, that's actually hard to discern. That's not worded that great. I'll have to see what that actually means. I'm kind of curious to see what they mean by removing the slowdown adjustment on that. Hard to say. It might mean that you don't have to be in the window, like you don't have to be close to make the slowdown happen, but I don't know. That's worded very vaguely. We'll see what that entails. It's now possible to Roman cancel during a jump animation. In the past, like you had to wait for the jump animation to start up, which honestly I don't know what you would use that for. Probably the new air combos would be my guess, but kind of an interesting thing there. And then red Roman cancel will no longer activate during movement such as dash and backdash. So if you do something like hit someone and then go into a dash cancel move, you're not going to get red Roman cancel anymore. You're either going to get blue or purple. That's actually a pretty nice buff. Let's see. Overdrives no longer negate slowdown, so that could be interesting for something like Isanogi. But I'd have to mess with that to see what kind of practical application we can do with that. Activating Roman cancel during an overdrive now causes slowdown, so that's interesting for us because that means we potentially can do this and have slowdown actually occur. Kind of interesting. We'll see, again, what we can apply with that. Homing jump, so your charge dust follow-up. No longer are you allowed to Roman cancel during those dust attack follow-ups. Basically removing some option selects and burst baits and stuff like that. I think the idea is that they want, if you get hit by a charge dust, they want the damage to be guaranteed, is what I'm gathering from that. Like, if you want to, if someone bursts to get out of it, they want that to also be guaranteed. So, just sounds like they're just making it so it's a lot harder to add in Roman cancels and baits when you do a charge dust. So kind of a nerf to charge dust overall, but not really that big of a deal. They fixed a couple bugs with wall stick and wall break. Those don't really apply to Anji. Those were more for stuff like Ino. Let's see. Burst has an expanded hitbox now, so it's gonna, who knows how much larger it's gonna be from here, doesn't hit, there it hits, so a little bit more than a character and a half length away, give or take. So maybe it expands out to 2 character lengths away. A little bit of a buff for burst. Nothing super important there unless they really, really made it huge, but not too worried about that. Clashes have a couple changes. A bug's been changed where certain moves behave strangely under certain clash conditions. I haven't seen anything like that with Anji. I can't fathom that's going to affect us too much. But what will affect us is projectiles. When 2 projectiles clash, the projectile at the lower clash level now gets erased. So basically, whatever they set projectile clash level at, and I have no idea what Shitsu is, I'm going to assume it's low, just because of the nature of it. If it runs into another projectile, that means it's going away, but the other projectile stays on screen. So that'll be interesting. I don't know if that means it only works for multi-hitting projectiles, like if they have extra hits, or if it's just that projectile just wins and yours is erased. That'll be worth some testing, and we'll talk about that more in a minute with Anji's direct buffs. Universal changes to Jump Slash, Jump Heavy Slash, and Jump Dust. All of these moves now trigger the counter effect. The only ones that don't is Jump Dust for Kai and Jacko, and that's because their Jump Dusts are projectiles. Kai puts the star out, Jacko throws her air projectile, so theirs do not trigger the counter hit effect, because that would be kind of gross. But more importantly, now all Jump Slashes, Heavy Slashes, and Jump Dusts can now be jump canceled. That was not the case across the entire cast. Anji could already jump cancel Jump S, but he could not jump cancel Jump Heavy, nor can he jump cancel Jump Dust. This is really important, because not only can they be jump canceled, they can all be air dash canceled, which this cannot, and this cannot. So that's really important. That's going to change air combo ability a lot. And most importantly, maybe out of all of this, Jump Slash and Jump Heavy Slash now have Gatling routes to Jump Dust. Right now, the only Gatling route we have to Jump Dust is Jump Kick. This just gave us 2 more ways to go into our main wall bounce tool in the air, so that's really good for us. And it's probably really good for quite a few characters, and this is probably going to alter combos for a lot of characters and should make air combos a lot more interesting and diverse. So I'm a big fan of these changes. These will be very fun for us as Anji players, but this should be a universal, like, plus for the entire game. This should make combos a lot more freeform and interesting, maybe make things feel a little bit more like old Guilty Gear where you had a little bit more expression to your air combos. So I'm excited for that. Let's see. Block. So these are really important. So 1, remove the increase to block stun upon Faultless Defense being activated. So Faultless Defense in every version of Guilty Gear, including Strive, if you Faultless Defense a move, that move has 2 more frames of block stun on you. So if a move is +1 and you Faultless Defense it, that move is now +3. That's gone. That's a really big deal because now it means there is absolutely no downside to using Faultless Defense other than the meter cost. That's the only penalty for using it. You don't suffer increased block stun anymore, so that's pretty big. Successful Faultless Defense will now cause a set amount of knockback, and so they go into detail in this in kind of the overall, like, direction of the patch, but basically there are a lot of moves that if you Faultless Defense, they don't do a lot in terms of pushback. Like Jump Punch, or excuse me, Crouching Punch, this doesn't push back terribly far, right? You know, Crouching Kick doesn't push back terribly far. Now there is a minimum threshold for how much Faultless Defense pushes back. So that's a big deal. And then even when return knockback is overwritten by a projectile, a set amount of knockback will now remain. What this means is that any projectile move that's used in pressure doesn't allow characters to circumvent the pushback on Faultless Defense anymore. So this is a big deal for fighting characters like Jacko, like Zato, like Ramlafall. All those characters integrate their projectiles in their pressure very heavily. So what this basically means is now when you Faultless Defense, you are pushing people out. Like, you are really going to push people out. And this is a huge buff for Anji especially, because our defensive game is not terribly good unless we have Kachofugets to try and interrupt with. So this now means we might actually be able to get out of some Eddy pressure, some Leo pressure. Backturn Leo stuff, if the increase in pushback is notable, that's going to really, really clog up the backturn game, stuff like that. This is a huge buff. This is something that you absolutely should not overlook. Faultless Defense is going to be a go-to defensive option now. It's going to be very, very, very strong. A couple other things. Characters no longer enter blocking stance before a projectile makes contact. What this means is there's no more proximity guard on projectiles. You see, when you do Shitsu, see how Anji blocks a little bit before it hits? Now that won't happen anymore. So now you will not go into the block animation until the projectile hits you. And that's nice. No more proximity blocking on those means you have maybe a couple more frames to try and do stuff, react to, BRC through a projectile, that sort of thing. So that's really useful. And last thing on block, added the difference in position height when the opponent to the conditions for entering a blocking stance before an opponent's attack. God, Arc's just word stuff bad sometimes. This could mean a lot of things. I'm not even going to try and detective work this one out right now. We're just going to skip that. Someone who's better with system mechanics than I am can explain that, but that's word salad. All right. Guard Crush. So, the knockback caused by instant block and Faultless Defense will now change when Guard Crush by the opponent's attack. So, I don't know how exactly what this means, if it means you're going to still get the pushback when someone uses a Guard Crush move, if that means it's going to be less pushback. Hard to say. I don't know what that adjustment entails, but it does mean that there's going to be different interactions for instant blocking and Faultless Defense and Guard Crush attacks. So that's something. And then When an attack hits opponent in the guard crush animation, that attack is treated as the first move in a combo. So that basically means that whatever hits you after being guard crushed, if something hits you, that is the start of a combo. So whatever the proration is on that move, that's the move. So that has some connotations for various characters, but again, there's a lot of possible things that could go through that. But anyway, let's go through the Anji stuff, because that's what you're here for. I know the Universal Pass notes are not exactly what you're here for, but it's important to go over those because a lot of them impact what he is getting in his own personal buffs. So, they make the overall statement of what their plan for Anji in this patch was. Is one, they revised the property of Shitsu so that it can be used outside of Okizeme. They want this to be something we can actually use in pressure, right? Right now, this is not a very good pressure tool. It's also a tool that's very hard to get out mid-screen in neutral for zoning, that kind of purpose. So, what they've done there is they have reduced the startup, reduced the recovery, and reduced the hit stop on the first hit. So this very first interaction, that has less hit stun now. That's probably fine, because that's, if he has reduced recovery, that doesn't change how easy it's going to be to combo from it or to do pressure. If anything, that's going to make doing stuff like Shitsu BRC even easier in between the hits, stuff like that. So Shitsu got a lot better. How much faster the startup recovery and such is, we don't know. We'll have to see when the patch comes out. I will do a recording and see what the increase or decrease what the decreases are in those startup and recovery. Hopefully it's significant. I would really like this move to not be as painfully difficult to use as it is. That would be a really nice change. But either way, even if it's only a couple frames on both ends, that's still a big buff for Anji. And there's a good chance it'll be more than that. But that's a big deal. So that's the first major note of what they're trying to do with Anji. Second, Fuujin starts up faster, so that's really interesting that just plain Fuujin will start up faster now. So this means it can now be linked into from far standing S and crouching S. So now, Fuujin will now combo from these moves. So right now, if you do crouch S, Fuujin doesn't combo. Even if you're way up in their grill, like, that doesn't combo. And in far S, if it's not a counter hit, you're not getting a combo. It doesn't matter how close you are, even though far S can be done really close. Haha. So that's another big buff. Fuujin's just faster now. That's great. That makes our confirms easier to do. That makes moves like this more active and poking and useful, because this is a low that hits on both sides. So yeah, super awesome. That's great for us. Ko got buffed, which blows my mind. They actually buffed this move. Ko is easier to use in combos and also stronger as an anti-air. So they have made it so the opponent floats less after Ko, and the second hit of Ko now guard crushes. So if someone blocks Ko in the air, they are going to have a bad day, which is pretty ridiculous. So yeah, this move was already arguably the best move in our entire kit for what it does. This is great because here's the deal. It sounds like what they did, if you watch the initial Anji trailer, the one that happened on the first of the year, that showed, demonstrated his basic kit, the original version of Ko was only one hit, but the opponent just was right next to you. Like, they did not float at all. So, like, if we do stuff like this, like, you get blown far away, right? Like, the second of Ko really pushes people away. Now it sounds like we will be able to link pretty much any jump normal we want out of Ko, and that's pretty massive because, well, now we have 3 jump moves that all are air dash cancelable, jump cancelable, and all Gatling into jump dust, which is our wall bounce. So what this means is our combo options are going to have far, far, far more potential. We're going to have a lot of potential ways to do wall bounces, to do Ko loops, to do all sorts of stuff. So this is a big deal. That's going to be really, really nice for potential combo options. So that's just a straight buff. That's going to potentially give us some really neat air combos, some really cool wall bounce combos. So yeah, that's a big win. We take that. We're very happy about that. Last big thing they mentioned on Anji specifically, we have addressed the problem where his forward punch would struggle to connect due to being shorter horizontally than other characters, which is interesting because this is not a bad horizontal move. Like, yeah, it's not super far, but for as much upper body invulnerability as this move has, it's not really terrible. So it's just going to have a bigger horizontal hitbox. So, all right, sweet. I will take it. They mentioned that they want forward punches to be more rewarding, to be more comboable after counter hit. So if I'm reading this right, we might be able to get some really good stuff, because if you get a counter hit off forward punch, so let's have Anji jump. Let's put counter hit on. So like right now, you can get Ko. If this new stuff all comes together and we have a better horizontal hitbox, in theory, they're going to be really close to us. We might be able to get wall bounces off that and stuff now, which would be pretty massive. So that's a good buff. Well, again, another one. We will happily take that. So those are the overall arcing notes that they talked about, what their thought plan was for putting Anji's new changes in this patch. So let me just go through the full set of changes now. So dash, decrease the upper hurt box directly after the animation begins. What this means is Anji kind of hunches down when he runs, so his hurt box gets a little lower. This is just going to make that happen a little faster. So it's not a significant thing, but it is a very small buff. So nothing wrong with that. We'll take it. Ground throw, increase the horizontal blowback. Basically, throw is going to put them further away from you now, and that is to adjust for Shih Tzu. If it's going to start up faster, recover faster, and all that, the idea is they probably want that to actually be a true meaty and space properly. So throw is going to not only set up Butterfly even better, since Butterfly is stronger, it's going to push people towards the corner even faster because it's got more, horizontal blowback. So works for me. There is a slight potential that could cause problems for us in other situations, but as far as I can think of, that's just universally a buff. So, but the main reason they're doing that is to accommodate the changes to Shih Tzu. Fares, this got a minor nerf, which is so weird to say because this move is so underwhelming. But they decreased the lower hitbox and hurtbox. Basically, what this means is that moves that low profile won't really get hit by this, which they really did in the first place. Like Stroke the Big Tree from went underneath of this. A lot of Soul 2D goes under this. But it also means that moves that are lower profile won't easily counter hit this either by smacking the hurt box. So it's a minor nerf, but at the end of the day, not that important. It's really not a super impactful change. I will happily take that for the fact that this will now always combo into Fuujin. Like, good enough. That's perfectly fine. So let's see what else we got here. So here's the first really big one. One of the other big universal things they mentioned in the patch was changing the startup of your character's fastest normals. So for some characters, that hopefully means a nerf. Cough, Soul, cough. But for us, Crouching Punch, reduced startup. That means at worst, this will be a 5-frame normal now. If we're really lucky, it'll be a 4-frame normal. I think that's probably a pipe dream. If we get a 4-frame normal of this, that's amazing. But what this means is now a lot of stuff that we could not challenge as an interrupt button, we can now. Giovanna doesn't get to run her pressure game on us with impunity anymore. Stuff like Nagoriyuki Spin, Beyblade, whatever you want to call it, is now a little bit something we can challenge a little bit more. This is big. Finally having a real interrupt button. God, I hope it's 4. If it's 4, that'd be amazing. But even if it's 5, that's a huge buff. Finally having a 5-frame button would be very beneficial. So we take that. We absolutely take that. That's really good. We talked about Shih Tzu and Fuujin having faster startup. Shih Tzu, faster startup, faster recovery, reduced hit stop. Fuujin, faster startup, and then increase base damage scaling. So I believe what that means is if you start with a Fuujin combo, if they increase the scaling... Usually when moves have higher scaling, that means they do less damage. If your starter has more scaling, that means it's going to scale the combo more heavily. So I'm assuming that means we get a little bit less damage for starting a combo with Fuujin, i.e. stuff like counter hit Fuujin. But they could also mean that they increase the damage. I'm assuming it's the opposite. I'm assuming that they're toning down damage a little bit, which would make sense to accommodate for the new combo routes we're going to have out of Ko and such. Depending on how heavily it scales, that could be kind of rough, considering, you know, counter hit charge Fuujin is our best starter in the game. So hopefully if it is increased scaling, it's not super noticeable, but in general, I don't think we're going to have problems doing damage off counter hit. I'm not too worried about that change. Again, we take that for having this have less startup and giving us more confirm options. That is a net gain by a wide margin. Spin. No longer counter hit during the animation. Thank fucking God. We are no longer in counter hit state for the startup and recovery of this move. That makes this way less risky. It's still going to be a risk, and it still takes 10 frames to start up, and there's no difference in the interactions when someone swings into it. But, man, just not being in counter hit state, thank you. Friggin' finally. Like, there was no reason for that. So, we'll take that. Ko, as I talked about, reduce the horizontal distance your opponent's sent back flying on the second hit. That's just going to enable way more combos for us, especially with those no universal air button changes. And then, yeah, added guard crush to the second hit. So, you know, Anji goes and jumps, and we make him block Ko. We got to make him actually block first. Whoops. That second hit's a guard crush now. That's really good for us, because then we can air dash after them and get pressure. So maybe even we might even be able to confirm off that if they're really pressed into the corner. That's pretty good. We're pretty happy about that. Take it. Absolutely take it. Ko just gets better. Our best move gets better. We're happy about that. Iseogi no longer can clash. I don't know in what situation that would ever be a problem, because who's doing Isanogi as a call-out move or anything but doing a wall break? Like, let's be real, this super scales terribly, and you only do it for executes or wall breaks, so that change is basically completely inconsequential. But that is all of our changes, so I'm not going to speculate too hard on how much stronger Anji is going to be. He can only get better with these changes. He definitely did not get worse. There is no world where he got worse, where he has a faster interrupt button, better Ko, better Shitsu, and universally better air buttons for combos and pressure. That's all really good. Oh, I did miss one other thing. Forward heavy. No longer in counter hit state after the frame's in, so the recovery of this, we're no longer in counter hit state. That's just a nice buff. So if you accidentally whiff this, or the real reason they're doing this, I know exactly why they did this now that I think about it, but the reason they're doing this is because if this is going to push back more with the decreased block stun, since it doesn't add block stun anymore, people could probably theoretically punish this by faultless defensing and then, you know, counter hitting us out of that. Potentially. You'd need a fast move, but the potential would be there. So that's almost certainly why they took the counter hit status off that, which, cool, we'll take that. That's really good for us. So, that's everything. What does all this mean? Again, I'm not going to try and speculate how much stronger we're going to be, because this is going to be a huge patch. Everybody got a ton of changes. These universal changes are going to impact the entire cast very, very drastically. But if you ask me, everything we got here is really good. Like, I know people are going to be upset that Fuujin follow-ups are no better, but if we have actual confirms out of this stuff, if we have more consistent combos out of Ko from anywhere, the ability to air dash cancel all three of these normals, the ability to combo into all of these normals in the air, like, we just got better. There's no two ways about it. Then here's the other thing. The universal stuff is what really matters for this character. Faultless defense being better is massive, because like I said earlier, if you don't have Kacho Fugets on deck, defense is hard with this character because we didn't have an interrupt button, nor did Faultless Defense get us out of pressure very well. Well, now we have a better interrupt button, and Faultless Defense sounds like it's going to be kind of actually friggin' nuts. So our defensive options got way better if we're willing to spend some meter, and the nice thing is that the nature of Anji's game is that he thrives off doing this. Like, he doesn't need meter to do big damage in this game. So if we're going to be able to, you know, do stuff like this and then go into Ko and they're not pushed far away from that, yeah, we're going to need even less meter to confirm our counter hits than we did before. So better confirms, way better Okazeme, I hope. If this is significantly faster like it looked in the original trailer, that's pretty good for us. That's going to be big. And then better defensive options, like, this is a big win for us. This is really, really good. If this is 4 frames, this is a massive win for us. Like, that will be life-changing if we have a 4-frame button. I don't actually think it's going to be 4. I am almost positive this will be 5. I will be pleasantly surprised if it's 4. That would be the biggest single win out of all of it. And then again, consistently comboing this into Fuujin without counter hit, that's pretty sweet. These buttons got better now. Like, this is now a real threat in neutral, because now we can actually poke, hit, combo into Fuujin. Okay, sure, happily, take it, give me that. So yeah, we'll see. This is going to be a big patch. There's going to be very, very drastic changes. It's probably going to be a lot more difficult to figure out all our options than the last patch was, because very quickly we found out that this stuff didn't change our game plan all that much. We're still using the same combos. We're still using a lot of the same pressure. But now we're going to have new air combo routes and all kinds of stuff, so this is going to be fun to mess with. So, patch should be out sometime in the early morning on the 15th. I will be awake because that's my schedule. So, I will start playing with stuff. I will post stuff to my Twitter when I find stuff, to just like I did with the last patch, to kind of give people stuff to look at. And then once I spend a couple hours messing with all the options and seeing what we have at our disposal, I will do a quick synopsis video about what I think actually playing with the changes and what that means for us. So look forward to that. But that's going to do it for this video. We're going to see what we can do with all this, but hard to say. There's so many changes here. Trying to figure out character strength relative to the cast is impossible with just reading these patch notes. So we need to see it. In action. So, yeah. I'll definitely have some more videos on deck. I should have some more information about some more coaching options and stuff in the near future. So look forward to that. And until then, take care of yourselves and look forward to this patch on Friday. Later, everybody.